They named their company Evil Corp.
Hundreds of millions of dollars from thousands of people and companies.
He's earned his place on the FBI's list of the world's most wanted cyber criminals.
Accused Maksim Yakubets of running a global hacking group called Evil Corp. Yakubets is accused of working for Russian intelligence.
The stroke of a key and the click of a mouse committed cyber crimes.
In 2019, a man with a custom Lamborghini bearing the license plate Thief became the FBI's most wanted criminal with a $5 million bounty. A bounty much higher than what's offered for most terrorists or drug lords. This makes the license plate an odd choice. Why advertise yourself as a criminal? Maksim Yakubets has stolen over $100 million from banks across 43 countries while living lavishly in plain sight. Today, we're going inside the mind-boggling case of the dark web's most wanted man, and the powerful geopolitical shield that somehow keeps this digital mastermind beyond the reach of international justice, despite his high-profile lifestyle. The untouchable playboy, Maksim Yakubets. While most hackers lurk in digital shadows, Maksim Yakubets does exactly the opposite. The FBI's most wanted cybercriminal isn't hiding in some underground bunker surrounded by computers. Instead, he's cruising through Moscow's streets in custom Lamborghinis, collecting exotic pets, and flaunting his ill-gotten wealth with a brazenness that defies logic. Picture a man who celebrates his status as a criminal. Footage captured by the UK's National Crime Agency reveals Yakubets and his inner circle performing donuts around police vehicles in Moscow, their luxury supercars screeching as they execute perfect circles around the very authorities who should be arresting them. In this particularly brazen display, officers stand watching as these criminals flaunt their impunity, powerless to intervene as engines roar and smoke rises from burning rubber. His extravagance creates a surreal portrait of criminal luxury. In his private estates, full-grown tigers pace alongside lion cubs, living trophies that symbolize a man operating by his own rules. These exotic animals aren't just pets, they're symbols of his contempt for conventional boundaries, completing the image of a criminal kingpin with absolute confidence. When Yakubets married, he transformed the event into a display of untouchable wealth. The wedding celebrations cost between $250,000 and $600,000 according to various reports, a sum so excessive it made international headlines. Think about the audacity, orchestrating a wedding so lavish and public, while his face appears on FBI wanted posters, throwing parties that would make even oligarchs envious. What's most baffling about Yakubets' lifestyle is the complete lack of concern for concealment. He parades his wealth without disguises or attempts to mask his identity. His vehicles bear personalized plates, and he performs stunts in broad daylight, deliberately drawing attention from the authorities. The psychology behind this behavior is simple. A man with high self-worth, no boundaries, and absolute immunity from consequence. Experts suggest criminals who flaunt wealth so openly engage in a complex power play. His ostentatious lifestyle serves as a deliberate statement of defiance against international authorities. Each public display broadcasts a clear message. You know who I am, you know what I've done, and there's nothing you can do about it. This absolute immunity, not because authorities fear his ability, but because the right ones value them. One authority in particular. Russia, the increasingly ostracized and alienated dictator state. But how did this little man get here, with a government eating from his hand so much as to turn a blind eye to obvious criminality? Well, finding out is why we're here. Let's get on with it. From Aqua to Kingpin, the rise of Evil Corp's mastermind. Behind the flash and arrogance of today's Yakubets lies a far more fascinating evolution. Unlike most cybercriminals who stumble into bigger scores through random opportunity, such as particularly catfishable bank executives, his transformation from anonymous forum user to cyber kingpin followed a business strategy so methodical it could have been drafted in a corporate boardroom. Except his corporation would become the most dangerous hacking group on Earth. In the early 2000s, a username appeared in Russian hacking forums that few would recognize as significant. Aqua. This was Maksim Yakubets' first digital identity. While his peers chased quick paydays through small-time scams, Aqua began with a larger vision. He focused on developing sophisticated malware capable of breaching major financial institutions without triggering security alerts. This represented his first step towards building a methodical criminal enterprise. This was merchandise to be sold, and damned good stuff as well. It was called Zeus, and infected systems through phishing emails. Once some naive victim unknowingly clicked on the link, it was over. The profits and reputational power gained from his malware allowed him to grow in actual power. By 2007, Yakubets had begun strategically aligning himself with notorious Russian cyber gangs, positioning himself at the intersection of technical expertise and criminal ambition. He quickly rose through the ranks. What truly distinguished Yakubets was his corporate approach. Where most hacking operations functioned as chaotic collectives, he constructed Evil Corp with the precision of a tech startup scaling into a global powerhouse. He built a structured criminal organization, complete with specialized departments, defined roles, and clear leadership. Essentially, a criminal Fortune 500 company operating in the digital shadows. The genius in Yakubets' operation lay in its specialized division of labor. He assembled a team of diverse experts, engineers developing increasingly sophisticated malware, financial specialists managing stolen funds, and targeting experts identifying vulnerable institutions. This corporate-style specialization created unprecedented efficiency in their criminal operations. At the center of this organization stood Igor Turashev as Evil Corp's technical administrator. While Yakubets operated as CEO, Turashev managed the critical infrastructure, overseeing botnet operations and maintaining control panels that monitored their malware's penetration across global networks. This leadership structure allowed them to scale operations far beyond what individual hackers could achieve. The development of Bugat malware, later known as Drydex, marked a crucial turning point. Under Yakubets' direction, this sophisticated malware package was specifically designed to automate the theft of confidential financial information. This technological advancement enabled what was now flamboyantly called Evil Corp to target institutions with military precision, extracting maximum value while minimizing detection risks. Yakubets' operational model focused exclusively on high-value targets, employed tactics for rapid movement of stolen funds through elaborate money mule networks, and maintained operational security that frustrated international investigators for years. When ordinary hackers celebrated thousands of dollars, Yakubets was architecting schemes generating hundreds of millions. What makes this evolution remarkable is the strategic vision behind it. Yakubets didn't just want to be another successful hacker, he wanted to build an institution. By structuring Evil Corp as a corporation rather than a traditional criminal gang, he created something more resilient, more scalable, and ultimately more dangerous than anything law enforcement had encountered before. A true corporate empire of cybercrime. Digital weapons, the Zeus and Bugat malware operations. At this very moment, millions of computers across nearly 200 countries are likely infected with malware so sophisticated that antivirus programs mistake it for legitimate software. This is the terrifying reality of Zeus, Evil Corp's digital masterpiece that rewrote the rules of financial theft. Zeus represented a paradigm shift in cybercrime. Like a digital phantom, it entered systems when victims opened seemingly innocent email attachments, silently installing itself in the background. No warning signs, no system slowdowns, nothing to alert users that their digital life had been compromised. This silent infiltrator would then patiently wait, monitoring every keystroke, capturing login credentials, and preparing to strike at the perfect moment. The brilliance of Zeus lay in its ability to create what security experts call man-in-the-browser attacks. When logging into your bank account, the website looks normal, the security certificate appears valid, even the two-factor authentication seems legitimate. But Zeus creates an invisible layer between you and the real website, controlling everything you see while simultaneously emptying your accounts. By 2010, this digital predator had established a terrifying global footprint. Computer systems across 196 countries fell victims to its sophisticated infiltration techniques. Picture yourself checking your account balance when suddenly, without any indication, you're presented with what appears to be a legitimate banking webpage asking for additional verification. You provide the requested information, believing you're communicating with your bank, when in reality, you're feeding your personal data directly to Evil Corp. This sophisticated social engineering attack was nearly impossible for average users to detect. The sheer scale of infection was unprecedented. Millions of compromised machines functioning as unwitting soldiers in Yakubets' cyber army. The financial damage was equally staggering, with attempted thefts reaching approximately $220 million and actual losses of around $70 million from victims' bank accounts. But Yakubets wasn't content with Zeus alone. As security firms developed countermeasures, Evil Corp pivoted to an even more sophisticated weapon, Bugat, later known as Drydex. While Zeus functioned like a digital pickpocket, stealthily lifting credentials, Bugat operated at a larger scale, targeting not individuals, but institutions. What made Bugat particularly devastating was its ability to defeat protective measures employed by financial institutions. The indictment against Yakubets and Turashev detailed how the malware was crafted to circumvent antivirus software and security protocols. Even more troubling was its integration with a botnet, a network of compromised computers that could be controlled remotely, allowing for widespread distribution with minimal effort. The evolution from Zeus to Bugat marked a significant technical advancement. Evil Corp's new digital weapon not only stole credentials, but also incorporated ransomware capabilities, enabling the group to lock victims out of their own systems until payment was made. This dual-threat approach maximized profit potential from each compromised machine. The financial destruction was executed through an intricate web of fake companies and offshore accounts, making it nearly impossible for authorities to trace the money back to Yakubets or his associates. By the time banks detected the unauthorized transfers, the funds had already vanished into Evil Corp's shadow financial network. The Hunt, the FBI's decade-long pursuit. As Evil Corp's digital assaults continued to devastate victims across America, a shadowy counterforce was mobilizing. The FBI had launched what would become the most extensive cybercrime investigation in history, a high-stakes game of digital cat and mouse that would span continents, push legal boundaries, and ultimately test the limits of international justice. The hunt for Yakubets began in 2011, when FBI cybercrime specialists first detected patterns in a series of sophisticated banking heists. What separated this investigation from typical cases was the phantom-like nature of their target. Quote, "How do you build a case against someone who never physically enters the crime scene?" End quote, questioned one veteran investigator, capturing the fundamental challenge of modern cybercrime investigations. The FBI's investigation quickly expanded beyond the US borders, evolving into an unprecedented collaboration with international partners. The UK's National Crime Agency proved especially crucial, providing technical expertise that helped connect seemingly disparate digital breadcrumbs. Together, these agencies painstakingly reconstructed Evil Corp's operational framework, mapping complex networks spanning dozens of countries. Human intelligence proved as valuable as technical analysis. Former Evil Corp members facing their own legal troubles began providing insider information. Quote, "These testimonies transformed our understanding," end quote, noted a lead investigator. Quote, "revealing not just how the malware functioned, but the organizational hierarchy behind it," end quote. Forensic cyber analysts worked meticulously to connect Yakubets to his online persona, Aqua. They analyzed coding patterns, linguistic markers in communications, and tracked financial flows through digital currency exchanges. Each digital footprint was catalogued, slowly building an evidentiary chain leading to Moscow. The investigation reached its public crescendo in December 2019, when the Justice Department unsealed a 10-count indictment against Yakubets and his technical administrator, Igor Turashev. The charges included conspiracy, computer hacking, wire fraud, and bank fraud related to Bugat malware distribution. This document represented the culmination of almost a decade of investigative work. The State Department simultaneously announced a $5 million reward for information leading to Yakubets' arrest, the largest bounty ever offered for a cybercriminal, reflecting the government's recognition of cybercrime as a national security threat. The evidence amassed against Yakubets was overwhelming. Quote, "We traced specific keystrokes to specific attacks, creating what any legal expert would consider an airtight case," end quote, remarked one prosecutor. Yet, despite this monumental investigative achievement, identifying a ghost, documenting his crimes across multiple jurisdictions, and assembling a comprehensive international case, a frustrating reality emerged. The FBI had accomplished everything except actually apprehending their target, and they likely never would. And it goes past a lack of extradition policies. The Shield, Russia's protection and geopolitical cyber warfare. This jurisdictional gray area that is a sovereign, adversarially aligned nation conceals a far more sinister reality. The truth is, it's not just a lack of extradition treaties, but a lack of will. This is because, when you become a growing company with potential, you tend to get investors. In this case, the potential was to disrupt and cripple Russia's adversaries, and the investor was the Russian government itself. When a nation not only refuses to extradite a notorious criminal, but actively employs him, we're witnessing something unprecedented in the digital age. The weaponization of cybercriminals as instruments of state power. Russia's long-standing policy of refusing to extradite its citizens has transformed Yakubets' homeland into an impenetrable digital fortress. Behind these walls, he operates with extraordinary protection. According to US Treasury officials, Yakubets works directly for Russian intelligence, specifically the Federal Security Service, FSB, applying his criminal expertise to state objectives. The year 2017 marks a critical turning point. That's when Yakubets began working for Russian intelligence on special projects, a bureaucratic euphemism masking a disturbing transformation. The man who built his fortune stealing from Western institutions now weaponizes those same skills at the direction of the Russian state. His technical expertise and infrastructure have become valuable assets in Russia's geopolitical arsenal, digital partisans fighting an undeclared cyber war. The connection between Evil Corp and Russian intelligence forms a disturbing family portrait. Edward Bendersky, Yakubets' father-in-law, is a former high-ranking FSB official with links to Evil Corp. This family connection provides both personal protection and professional access to the highest echelons of Russian intelligence. Imagine family gatherings where cybercrime expertise merges with state intelligence priorities. This arrangement gives Russia something invaluable in modern geopolitics: plausible deniability. When banks are breached or infrastructure compromised, Moscow simply points to criminal elements operating beyond state control. Meanwhile, these same criminals direct sophisticated attacks against Western targets in perfect alignment with Russia's strategic interests. Security experts confirm this pattern extends beyond Yakubets. Russia has developed a system of utilizing cybercriminals as proxies, leveraging their technical skills for state-sponsored operations, while maintaining the fiction that these are simply criminal enterprises Russia cannot control. The US has countered with sanctions targeting Yakubets and other Evil Corp members. Yet, these financial restrictions prove largely ineffective against operators who already function outside legitimate financial systems and enjoy state protection. The criminal continues his operations, adapting his methods to circumvent Western restrictions. The victims: real lives destroyed by digital theft. While Evil Corp's shadow financial network operated with ruthless efficiency in the digital realm, the devastation it caused manifested in the physical world, shattering lives across the West. Have you ever considered what it would feel like to wake up one morning and discover your entire life savings have been reduced to zero overnight? For hundreds of victims across the hemisphere, this nightmare scenario became their new reality. Quote, "It was like having your home invaded while you were sleeping, except the intruder took everything without leaving a trace," end quote, described one victim, a small business owner who lost her entire operating budget. Her story echoes across America and the West: persistent anxiety, sleep disturbances, and a profound sense of violation following these invisible attacks. This psychological trauma often proved harder to overcome than the financial losses themselves. In Pennsylvania, a school district suffered a catastrophic blow when Evil Corp drained over $1 million from their accounts. This represented teacher salaries, educational resources, and the future of countless students. District administrators found themselves scrambling to maintain basic operations while explaining the crisis to concerned parents and staff. Equally devastating was the attack on a small religious congregation in Nebraska. This community had spent years fundraising for a new building, only to discover their collective sacrifices had vanished in an instant. Evil Corp deliberately targeted organizations with limited cybersecurity resources but substantial financial reserves. A calculated strategy revealed in the Justice Department's investigation. Behind each dollar figure in the useless indictments was a human story. Senior citizens lost retirement savings, small business owners were forced to lay off employees or close entirely, community organizations became unable to provide essential services. The total losses exceeded $100 million, but this figure cannot capture the true human cost. Dreams deferred, security shattered, and trust broken. What made these attacks particularly insidious was their combination of technical sophistication and psychological manipulation. Many victims received seemingly legitimate emails from trusted sources, their banks, business partners, or government agencies. Only after clicking a link or opening an attachment did they unknowingly install the malware that would ultimately drain their accounts. By the time they realized something was wrong, their financial lives had been irreversibly altered. The victims' testimonies reveal a common thread: the sense of helplessness, compounded by the invisible nature of the crime. Without physical evidence to process, many described feeling as though they were fighting a ghost, an unseen enemy who had calculated their vulnerability with precision and struck without warning, and never to be punished. Conclusion. The story of Maksim Yakubets represents something far more troubling than just another cybercriminal evading justice. What we're witnessing is nothing less than the evolution of warfare itself, where the lines between criminal enterprise, espionage, and geopolitical power plays have become dangerously blurred. The $5 million bounty on Yakubets remains unclaimed, not because he's hiding, but because the traditional mechanisms of international justice have become powerless against state-protected criminals. With the sanctions following Russia's unjustified invasion of Ukraine, we know not even economic pressure can bend the Kremlin to the will of justice. Apprehending Yakubets really would take an actual war with the West, something that seems inevitable and imminent. So perhaps NATO should keep an eye on that possibility once they crush Russia into submission. I hope.